email out saying that we have to end before 6:30. So let's get going. Good evening and welcome to Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness Commission, City of Milpitas. This is a special meeting, November 12th, and it is right now 5:01 p.m. Moving to public comments. Comments from the public may be provided live during this meeting by first registering for the Zoom meeting in advance. All registered meeting attendees who wish to speak must click on the raised hand button and you will be called upon in order. All comments provided shall be limited to 3 minutes or less. All members of the public will be limited to 1 comment per agenda item and 1 comment for non-agenda items. The online written comments form previously used is no longer available for public comment. Tony, do we have any public comments?
We do not. I want to just verify, Chief Corpus, you're on the phone, and it looks like I also have Alec Bittenkurt on the phone. Alec, is that you? Can you comment, Alec, via verbally?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, there we go. We got you now. Okay, very good. Alec is part of our, is one of our commissioners as well. So otherwise, no public comments at this time.
Okay, then moving on, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Councilmember Dominguez, would you please lead us in the flag salute,
Thank you so much, Chair. Absolutely. You could please stand wherever you are from the comfort of your home in order to honor our flag. And join us as we pledge allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tony, roll call, please.
I'm going to call again Alec Bittenkurt.
Here, present.
Don Clendenin.
Here.
Paul Ellis.
Present.
Han Lin.
Present.
Jonathan Nakapalao. Joe Nichols. Vicki Young.
Present.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Present.
Do we have Sergeant Speckenhoyer or just Lieutenant Miller?
Just Lieutenant Miller, Tony.
Okay, thank you. And then I see we have Chief Corpus as well and Chief Frawley. Is there anybody else that I'm missing on here? Okay, roll is accounted for.
Thank you very much. All right. So we don't make the seating of the alternates.
Vicki technically is an alternate, so yes, we actually need to officially seat Vicki.
All right. Note that in our report. We're moving on to the approval of the agenda. Tony, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda unless anyone else has changes to be made.
Yeah, actually, I have 2 minor comments to the agenda. The date reads September 14th. I believe the date is actually the 17th of the last meeting in September.
On the agenda?
Yep.
Are we talking meeting minutes?
Oh, I'm talking about the meeting minutes. I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself.
Okay.
Okay. So approval of minutes is September 17th, and there's a typo on the minutes itself as September 14th.
Okay, I'll get that corrected.
Correct, Paul?
Yeah, can you call for a motion to approve the agenda for me, Han?
Absolutely. Would someone entertain a motion for me, please?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Paul made a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Clendenin.
Done. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And I actually have to roll call, so I'm just going to go down the list to approve. Alec, do you approve?
I approve.
Don?
Yeah, approve.
Paul?
Aye.
Han?
Approved.
and Vicky.
Approved.
Thank you. And it's unanimous.
Okay, great. Approval of minutes. This is where Paul pointed out September 17, 2020. And on the minute itself, it says September 14.
Okay, very good. I will get that corrected. Is there, and I'll need you to call for the motion to approve the minutes pending the changes.
Well, wait a second. I have one other comment on
Oh, okay.
page 3. The third bullet item says National Night Out 2019. I believe
Oh.
that's 2020.
Yes, I will make that correction as well. Thank you.
Okay. With that, motion to approve.
With the changes, correct?
With those changes.
Thank you, Paul. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Don second.
Thank you.
All in
And
favor?
let me go ahead and take roll again on that. Alec, motion to approve the agenda, to approve the minutes pending the changes.
I approve.
Dawn,
Approve.
Paul,
Approve.
Han,
Yes.
and Vicky.
Yes.
Approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to public forum. Those interested are invited to address the commission on any subject not on tonight's agenda. Speakers may provide their name and city of residence for the record, and comments may be limited to 3 minutes or less at the discretion of the chair or vice chair. As an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required from the city staff or the commission, and no action can be taken. Okay. I'm going to check with you again, Tony. Are there any public comments?
No, there is not.
Okay, then let's move on to announcements. Do we have any announcements?
No announcements from Milpitas OES.
Okay. Business items. Tony.
So we have the work plan. I was under the impression previously that the work plan ran on calendar year. Apparently it's fiscal year. But when we made our initial goals, we were pre-COVID. It was December, or I guess it would have been January of 2020 that we made these objectives for our work plan. So we need to amend them so that they are within the confines of COVID restrictions so that we can create new work plan goals to map us out for the remainder of the term of this commission. And then further on, we can, beyond that in the new fiscal year, so I guess it would be at our May meeting, we can look to the future at that point, depending on how COVID has us doing business at that point in time. So for the time being, we need to kind of look at the work plan as you can see it up on the screen and make amendments to what our work plan will be so it can go to council next week for approval. So I don't know if you guys have ideas at this point, what you want to plan on doing, continuing on, going in for the next few months, or what the discussion should be on that. So at this point, I'm kind of turning to you guys, commissioners. What would you guys like to do? Do you have ideas that you want to do?
Well, yeah, this is Paul. Do I have, you okay to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. So, right now, everything that we're doing is kind of on hold pending, getting some relief from COVID. And since it doesn't look like that's anywhere in the near future, I'd like to see us take a couple of these and see if we can't, use technology to move them forward. So for instance, in the case of the Map Your Neighborhood program, I'd like to see us, pick the neighborhoods that we'd like to engage and use Nextdoor to reach out to those neighborhoods. And then just like we're doing now, do a Zoom meeting with those neighborhoods to explain the Map Your Neighborhood program and start using social media like that, because it's highly unlikely that anybody is going to be able to physically get together before, the spring.
Well, the comment to that, this is Don,
is we'd have to kind of do a little bit of rewickering on how we do it exactly. Because we had a combination of videos, and then there was a little bit of time where they interacted within each other to see who would, you know, one is understanding who their neighbors are. Secondly is you know, who's the resources and what resources they have and things like that. So that's, we're gonna have to change some things up on that. So it's gonna take a little time.
Yeah, so I guess actually I should have opened this by saying that you know, I'm proposing that as a motion that we use social media to get the Map Your Neighborhood program active again. And granted, there are some details that we've got to figure out how to execute, but you know, at the moment we're not doing anything. So you know, I put forth the motion that we use social media to kick some of these programs off.
Well, again, why would we go out and do that until we have a plan how we're going to present it before even saying, oh, let's just go and shoot this out over social media, and everybody says, yeah, I want to do that. And it's like, well, okay, now how are we going to do it? That's what I'm saying.
The motion is to put together a plan to rev that program back up. So the motion is we put together the plan and then we execute the plan, you know, assuming we've got something that we think, you know, works. Does that make sense or no? Apparently not.
I think it makes sense, but I also believe that it would be very hard to come together in this Map Your Neighborhood.
I think we actually have a motion on the floor. Are we going to get it? Han, you'll have to call to see if there's a second.
Yes. Is there a second? There's a motion on the floor. If there's a second, we can further discuss this after the second. No second, so the motion died.
Okay.
I think to kind of throw something out there to consider, I think it's very challenging to get people, especially in their homes, to get on additional Zoom calls on top of what we're already doing for work and our kids are doing for school. I don't want to be overzealous in the objectives that we set for ourselves because I don't want to set us up for a failure. One of the things that we can consider, and we don't have to, Karina, correct me if I'm wrong, please. We don't have to have a certain amount of goals in mind. We just need to, I can just update status on what we do have going on with these. And I believe the council, for every legitimate reason, will believe why these are not viable goals in this year. And clearly they were set in January prior to the situation we're in. One of the things we can consider is a while back when we had Tim Howard and Mike Berryhill, they had created, and maybe Don was a part of this too, they had created a alert STC presentation over PowerPoint. And I think they might even have certain Map Your Neighborhood. I think there were a couple PowerPoints we had previously created. So the work is already done. We could consider jumping into some of those social clubs that we always talked about doing, such as the Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions Club, and maybe just doing those alert SCC presentations just to kind of keep ourselves in front of an audience with those same messages that are still very important and very relevant in this day. But the presentations are created. And so if you guys are willing as commissioners to get yourself set up with those organizations to do a presentation, they do still meet. They meet remotely over Zoom. So those meetings are already taking place. We're not asking people to give more time than they were already planning on doing. So if you guys want to consider that as an option, that would be something that I think is completely viable, and the hard work's done. It's really just taking the time to do it.
Yeah, because we've got several individual PowerPoints, and then we got kind of a combined set of, you know, kind of a highlight of each of the different things we were talking about. And I don't think we don't have anything on Neighbor Fest, but we could add something in on that too as well. You know, it's when you're trying to connect with the public, I think is more difficult unless they're already in some, like Tony was saying, there's some sort of group that we can connect with.
And I would believe that if we had the plan before COVID, and this is just to meet over Zoom and continue that work, then it would be easier for the community members to get involved and to stay involved in that project. But I'd like to see if we have any comments from Councilmember Dominguez.
Hi, everybody. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time. In terms of the program that we are speaking of, I know that we were moving in a very positive trajectory right before COVID, right? Where we got a big presentation and we were definitely in the space of implementation. One of the things that I have learned doing very similar work in my day job is that everyone is pivoting online, and there is a Zoom fatigue that is happening in households. So we definitely want to have that in mind. One of the things that I would like to maybe chat with our chief about, and I'm not too sure how this program works in Milpitas and if there would be a possibility for this committee to have either a direct role in or work in partnership with our Milpitas Police Department, where I do believe that the neighborhood program we're speaking of wanted to move more into the search. But the other program that I'm thinking about is increasing our neighborhood watch program. Neighborhood watch programs are vital right now. And the reason I say that is because everybody is home. And so we are seeing an increase. The crime is shifting from one place to the other because people are now home all the time versus before they weren't at home. So at least in my own perspective, what I am seeing is I am seeing an increase of people noticing in Milpitas what is happening in their community, which is great because they're home all the time. So even things that happened before and they weren't really aware of, they're now aware of it because they're seeing it firsthand. One of the things that, again, I would consider is maybe putting this on hold but pivoting a model from it. My model that I would pivot to would be a neighborhood watch program, because I honestly don't even know how many neighborhood watch presentations are being done in Milpitas. I do see the sign, so I know it's here, but I think it would be a great program that we could pivot into a Zoom. It's easy to do once it's a presentation is already put together. And I actually see an overlap between this program and that program. So maybe I will bring it back to the chief or whoever's here representing PD and kindly ask this commission to see if that's something that you guys would like to pivot to. I think crime prevention is one of the best things we could do right now for our entire community. And I am getting those calls as a council member from our community. And it's simple things, again, that our community members could do that could prevent the crime. And it would get them engaged. So that goal would still be there. We would promote neighborhoods. And then we would create a sustainable program to maybe get those contacts of people who are already engaged, who want to do a neighborhood watch program in their neighborhood. And then once we're ready, once COVID, hopefully once we rise from COVID, we can then move to this action plan that's before us. And so definitely that would be my recommendation, Chair. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Does the chief has anything to share with us or recommend us?
So good evening, council member, chair, and commissioners. Armando Corpus, serving as your police chief. So I'll try to keep my answer brief to the council member because she hit on several different points that actually are important to us and to our community members. So first, the last I recall, and I haven't seen the number recently, we had 62 neighborhood watch programs within the city of Milpitas. At one point, we were connecting with our leaders in Neighborhood Watch to seeing which ones were actually still active, and then dwindling those numbers down to the truly active ones. And so I do believe Neighborhood Watch is important to our community, and it's a partnership that we've maintained with our residents in an effort to reduce crime throughout the city. So that is something I think would have value to agendizing maybe at your next meeting to see how, to the council member's point, how our folks who lead community relations and are in charge of Neighborhood Watch can help support crime reduction efforts and awareness in town. I will take the opportunity to also mention that crime has shifted since COVID struck us in March. The crime trends that we're seeing we're seeing a decrease, a very slight one, by the way, in some of our residential burglaries, but we're seeing a significant increase in our commercial burglaries, a significant increase in auto thefts, but a major decrease in auto burglaries. So we're attentive to those crime trends daily, weekly. We meet monthly with our staff, and we deploy to the areas that are being affected most. But I think, I know, partnering with our community members to create awareness helps to reduce crime overall. And so to that, I would highly support a future agenda item to see how we can best support these efforts between Neighborhood Watch, our staff, and this commission.
Thank you, Chief. Tony, you are having that on the reports, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The one thing, and to Armando's comments there too, is probably making the public more aware of how they can communicate to the police department as such, or what they should be looking for in some sense. So that would be kind of a benefit to you guys to, get more input that goes to you and not so much next door. I see some people kind of posting on there like, it's more of a, this just happened to me. Yeah. Did you call the police? Kind of thing, versus, call the police, then tell us what had happened. So we're aware of it. And at the same time, the police are on the case right away to deal with it.
So, Chair, if I may, there's a couple of points that I want to add, and thank you, Don, for those comments. So, although you do see that on social media, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't commend a large portion of our community that do call us. I think we need to continue community education to ensure that folks know what type of services we provide. But we do have a significant portion of our population that does call us. We remain a full service police department, so regardless of the type of incident, we're going to respond out. And then lastly, I'll mention that we continue to put out educational pieces in social media, but the problem is not everybody's following us on social media or has social media. So at some point, we're going to have to look at other options of connecting with our community members as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. Any other comments or suggestions?
But the only thing I can say is we can hand out flyers. That's one thing, but it's more dropping them to neighborhoods that seem to be problematic, or at least areas that are problematic, where there's someone there. Commercial side of it's not going to be that easy, but because nobody's there.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we did when they were getting all the car break-ins. We were handing out flyers face to face with people to give, awareness of what's going on with the, car break-ins. Don't leave stuff in the car. You don't put stuff in the trunk when you're there, kind of thing.
Tony?
Yes.
So for the work plan, we have 4 items on here. I don't think any of this will be possible to start. Let me hear from you.
I'm sorry, will any of it be possible to start?
Yes.
Everything on there is pretty face-to-face. Map Your Neighborhood, Neighbor Fest are sort of one of the like.
The business might be the lesser of face-to-face, but still it's tougher than
Yeah, I think that we can work again. I think going back to what's working right now on Zoom and whatnot is the business stuff, meaning Chamber, Rotary, because again, those organizations are still meeting. So I think those are the things that are going on now that we could get in front of without having to create the audience, because that's the problem with, say, your neighborhood watch or your Map Your Neighborhood, is you have to somehow collect all those neighbors together to get in this meeting together without actually talking to them face to face or knowing them. You have to now get them to join you in a Zoom. So I think for now, we're obviously going to be very limited in what we can do. I do think we can agendize for the future and moving beyond COVID, the Neighborhood Watch program, because I think that's absolutely a great one. And I've actually already partnered up when previously Sergeant Hinckley was in it. He and I used to actually tag team meetings together anyway. So it's definitely OES, Map Your Neighborhood has had an introduction into those programs. We've always worked together historically on those. Chief Corpus, maybe let me ask this: is is Neighborhood Watch doing anything currently online or with Zoom? Like, is it kind of just a dormant program given the climate?
No, it's not a dormant program. So I'll explain it this way. When COVID hit, our activity was really focused on continuity of operations and the health of our staff along with our community. But when we realized COVID was not going away, as a council member mentioned, we pivoted. We were looking for other avenues to connect with our community members. And so with Neighborhood Watch and with HOAs, not just Neighborhood Watch, our folks in community relations have been connecting with those members and communicating with them. The challenge will be in some of these HOA meetings and Neighborhood Watch meetings is attendance. And so although you may get one scheduled, the challenge has been you get very light attendance in some of those, if any. So it's not a dormant program. It is ongoing. It can always be stronger. I'll be the first to say that. But I don't want to leave anyone with the impression that it's not supported or it's not currently in use.
Okay.
Chief, would you be comfortable in putting it as a task on this scope of work as right now? Because I could see where some of these tasks we wouldn't be able to reach that goal of objective due to COVID. But I definitely want to ask, do you think that we would be able to maybe put the task to enhance Neighborhood Watch programs? The description would be fairly, it could be fluid. The goal would be to continue engagement with our neighborhoods. It's very similar to what the currently number 3 on the scope of work is. And then finding commissioners to help maybe move that forward if it's, and then again, I want to share that I always think of things as small. I don't expect 100 Neighborhood Watch programs, but I think if we could say that we're going to host at least 3 neighborhood watch programs, I think that shows at least an increase, and it shows that what's actually on a work plan. And I actually think it's pretty attainable for this group to attain if that's something that you feel comfortable with, Chief.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding your questions or comments, Councilmember, so you're asking to add to the work plan a task where this commission would support the work that we're doing in connecting with Neighborhood Watch and to help strengthen that program. If I'm understanding that correctly, absolutely.
Yeah.
If it was in the reverse, where we were supporting the commission, my first response would have to be, well, I would need to better understand what the time commitment and staff commitment would be to see if we have that bandwidth. But I think we're talking about just the opposite. So absolutely, if the commission, if this commission is looking to support that effort, we would welcome it.
Thank you. And yes, no, we're definitely, it would be the first statement. Absolutely. Because I do believe that's attainable, and that's something that we could put and show results, right? So we could tell our community, look, COVID came, but we didn't stop. We pivoted, and this is how we're doing it as a group. If that's something that of course that the chair and this commission is comfortable with doing, I think definitely that's something that the council would definitely be very, very happy to see. If that's something that works for you guys as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember and Chief Corpus. I do need a motion to carry this work plan. Would anyone want to entertain a motion? Don, Paul, Vicky.
I'm sorry, I'm chatting away on mute.
Oh, okay.
So are you looking for a motion relative to the entire work plan or that particular item?
The entire work plan, unless you want to change or make modifications, make it with your motion.
Well, I certainly will make the motion that, we take the tack that's been suggested that, we support the neighborhood watch program, and that we add that to, our task, and that we put some of the other tasks basically on hold. Basically Neighbor Fest, we know we're not going to do anything with that. I do believe that we can move forward with the second item. So I think that should remain on the agenda, and that, Map Your Neighborhood goes on hold as well. So my motion, I guess, is to put items 1, 2, or 1 and 3 on hold, and to move forward with items 2 and 4, and to add the 5th item, which would be the support of the neighborhood program.
Neighborhood Watch.
Right.
All right. So we're clear on the motion. Is there a second? I'm waiting for a second.
Yeah, guys, I could get a complex here tonight,
Second. I'll second.
Is that you?
You?
It's Alex.
Yes, it's Alex.
Give Alec for a second. Okay, so I have recorded that we have a motion and a second to put items number 1, Neighbor Fest, and 3, Map Your Neighborhood on hold.
Okay.
We'll continue.
Alex seconded.
Yes, we'll continue 2 and 4. And we will add on number 5, which will be the support of Neighborhood Watch program alongside of Milpitas PD.
Yes.
Okay, and then I need to call for the roll of the vote. So I'm going to call again on Alec.
I approve.
Dawn.
Approve.
Paul.
Approve.
Fawn.
Yes.
And Vicky.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
All right. Thank you.
Because when I was looking at that too, the technology and collaboration initiative is a lot almost towards that, just with the variant in there. So there's kind of similarities in that because it's social media based and it's getting the police fire and everything else included in that. So we're just kind of more focusing on the police side. So there's some similarities, just what I've kind of noticed there.
Can we move on?
Yep.
Okay,
You can do whatever you would like, Chair.
now. Okay, item B. We are canceling the meeting on November 19th and call for this special meeting today to discuss about the work plan. So is that what it is, Tony? Just to report that out?
Yes, so I will need you to call for a motion to cancel the meeting next week, unless you guys want to do this again next week. But I figured we could handle it
No,
tonight.
we should take care of everything tonight. Okay,
Okay. Call for a motion, please, Chair.
is there a motion?
I will make that motion that we cancel next week's meeting.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, that's done.
Let me take roll. Alec,
I approve.
Don,
Approve.
Paul,
Proof.
Fawn,
Approve.
and Vicky.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved unanimously. I will put out the notification to cancel the meeting for next week.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to item 10, City Liaison Reports. Council Member Dominguez, for your report.
Hi, everybody. I apologize. As you guys could tell, I am maneuvering 2 meetings at once. And so I promise I am giving you all my attention. EPA Transportation needs my vote on an emergency meeting. So I definitely want to disclose that. In terms of the report, we, from the council, we've been really, really busy, right? So I am going to go ahead and give that. He has a lot. I believe there is an item that we're going to be speaking on that is going to be very, very important. And I do ask this, all of you to really, please place all of your feedback in it. Please do not be shy on it. This is going to be something really important that we all are going to have to put our feedback so it can move into the council and hopefully move into a full consideration and move forward. And so at this time, that is all I have, Chair.
Thank you. The next item is school district's report. That will be Han. So I'm going to be brief. Since November 2nd, we had our second all team members, the culture of we, and we discussed the cultural sustainability learning day for all members throughout the district. Also on November, we had discussed the in-person back to school. We took a survey of the teachers and the parents. Some of the teachers are okay going back in person teaching. We have some that would say, no, we are doing this from a distance. So right now, with the plans of mid-January 2021, back in person, that's phase 3 for our school district, we encourage teachers to take the classroom starting now to get familiar with the environment, with their own classroom. They teach from their own classroom instead of from home. And hopefully that will make them more comfortable in going back in person in January of 2021. So that's what we're working on, and that's my report.
Thank you, Han. I just realized we have an attendee with their hand up. Mr. Urvesh Kumar Mehta. I'm not sure though, if I have IT support online, if they'd be able to help me.
Okay, I see the hands, but I don't, right.
Let me see if I can unmute. I'm not sure. Well, maybe not. Oh, Mr.
Yes,
Mehta? Yes,
yes.
hi.
Okay,
Good evening to the Honorable Chair, as well as the Council Member Corina Dominguez, and as well as all the Commissioner. I just wanted to mention about the distance learning. Recently, the City of San Jose, they approved the funding for the distance learning and provided the citywide Wi-Fi hotspots as a part of a distance learning program to all the students. So my request to the council, council member, honorable chair, and all commissioners is to consider to initiate a program development, which is going to be helping, with the distance learning as well as, online courses that would be, helping the students, as well as the city of Milpitas, along with the Santa Clara County fire department, police department of other cities within the Santa Clara County. They are offering the online courses like for the light rescue and search program, NPC programs, CPC program, first responder training kits over as online courses as well. So my request is that to the all commissioner and the commission to consider the program development as well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
thank you so much for your comments. Are there any other?
No other comments, or I have no other hands up for attendees.
I'm glad you pay attention to the chat. The participants.
I panicked there for a moment because I didn't realize how long it had been sitting there.
I know. I
Not used to
didn't
the
check
format
that.
yet.
Okay. The next item is yours.
Yes, so going on to the OES report. So it just so happens that Mr. Mehta, who just joined us on the call, he had recommended the MyShake app, and it is an app developed by the University of California, Berkeley. And so we thought this might be a great program to bring to you guys. If you're interested in sort of testing out the app, we wanted to find out what your feedback was on it, its performance and whatnot. So you can download it for Droid and for iPhone. I've had it on my phone for the last couple of weeks, kind of checking it out. And we kind of just wanted to get your feedback, schedule it onto a future commission meeting to discuss, because the thought is if it's something that you guys were impressed with, if we felt it was something that would be helpful to the community, we would then put it out through our OES page and our alerts page. If it's something that you guys, felt it was beneficial.
Okay, check that out.
Yeah, any questions on that? Okay. Other than that, I did not have anything further for OES at this time.
All right, thank you. Item D is the fire report.
Well, thank you, Chair, Council Member Dominguez, Public Safety Commission, members of staff, and members of the community. My name is Rick Frawley. I'm one of the deputy fire chiefs here in the fire department, and I have 3 items to review with the commission. The first item that I take a lot of pride in is the COVID testing that our personnel have been conducting since May 29th of this year. The latest data that we have supports over 5,000 tests that have been administered in the community. Even today, we had 60 residents that were tested. Majority of those are from the Milpitas community, about 80% of them today. So I think we're really kind of assisting in trying to slow the growth and the challenges of COVID-19. We're going to be continuing the testing through November and supporting whatever challenges we're facing in terms of the possibility of shifting dynamics within COVID-19. So that's something we remain committed to and making sure that we make a difference in the community. The second item I have is internal to the fire department. It's also a little bit of a nexus with our partners over in the police department, and that's an internal program for policy revision that we're implementing. It's a service known as Lexipol, and it's a company that creates and supports standardization of policy and procedure that again, our partners in PD have been using for many years. We're bringing it over to the fire department to make sure that our internal policies and procedures meet federal, state, and regional mandates as well as best practices. So we're kicking that off now, working also with city staff to make sure that if there are any umbrella policies at the city level, that we align with those as well. So there's uniformity and transparency throughout the city. And then the final piece, great news on Fire Station 2, on the reconstruction of Fire Station 2. We're working with our partners in city engineering. They're heading the project up, but they're working to support our needs. We're hoping to have a contractor identified through the bid process in the near future, and a groundbreaking to take place for Fire Station 2. So lots of great stuff going on, even in the midst of COVID-19. And as the chief mentioned earlier, as we all pivot, we still have other initiatives and other work that we need to get done. It's trying at times, and it's stressful, for our people. And so we want to make sure that we keep them in our thoughts and support them in any way we can. But we understand that the mission continues, and that's our focus, is to keep the wheels on the train and keep going in a forward direction with positive momentum. So those are my 3 items. Any questions? I'm open to any questions about those initiatives or pretty much anything else in the fire department. There's still a lot going on here.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Yes, Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you so much, Chair. I definitely wanted to ask, and I did not include it in my report, but I was wondering if you could go over a little bit about what's happening with the recent surge with COVID, and really emphasize the message that we are getting from the county these past couple of days, because I know that has shifted. And so I definitely wanted to give the floor to the experts, because you are our experts here in Milpitas, and I think it's important for our communities members who are watching us to really hear what's happening in the last couple of days with COVID-19.
Well, we are seeing within our county, we are seeing an increase in test positivity, and that is creating a lot of concern amongst all of the cities, as well as at the county level, in terms of what that is going to do for pulling us back from the level of support in terms of community engagement outside of the restrictions. As that number increases in the next 2 weeks, if the numbers don't plateau and then start to drop back down to where they need to be, we're going to see increased restrictions. So the big message is, as we've been saying throughout the duration of this pandemic, is social distancing, not just 6 feet, but 6+ feet, as well as making sure that we wear appropriate face coverings, and that we limit the size and scope of our any gatherings within our cohort or within our small unit that we live with, and that we isolate exposure to others. Again, with the concern being that if we see the trending continue in the county, that we're going to see a pullback and a reduction of what we can do out in the community now. So again, thank you, Councilmember Dominguez, for bringing that up and really honing down to face coverings, social distancing, and being mindful of our actions.
Kind of a note to that, I just had a meeting on the tech side, and the Tech Interactive is looking at pushing their opening way out, because they don't want to be that source of contaminate, and one thing they said was the numbers they were kind of getting from the county was saying that it's the small group gatherings, the killers. It's not the huge numbers, it's the small groups. You and your buds come over and that sort of thing. That's where the issue is. It's that.
Don, I would support exactly what you just hit on, which is the small groups. And I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of the post-Halloween small group gatherings that took place. That was a Saturday. It was the first Saturday for Halloween in probably 30 years, if I remember the media correctly. So I think we saw a lot of that throughout the region. And I think we're, just like we did around 4th of July, and just like we do when we have these small gatherings, even though they seem innocuous and it doesn't seem like it's going to present a challenge, it inevitably does present that challenge that we're seeing now.
Yeah, and even when it's your friends, you think, "Oh, my friends are okay. They're careful." Yeah. We don't know who they've been with, who wasn't so careful, and it carries over to you, and you're asymptomatic or sorts, or it's just a little whatever, and it's not bothering me. So it must be just a cold or something like that. And it's like, here, have a handful.
And
All right, we have items.
I'm sorry. On the other piece, I was just going to mention to the group that I didn't talk about because it's still kind of in development. Is as there are conversations about a vaccine, we're looking to make sure that we're part of that deployment within the community as well. So that's something that's in our work plan to transition out of testing at some point and to support administering any kind of vaccine that becomes available.
Yes, and we must practice social distancing, wear our mask all the time. And when you see others don't do that, remind them. But we must move on because the police department has 2 reports to report. Chief, Lieutenant?
If you're turning it over to us, Han, I will turn it over
Yes.
to Lieutenant Miller to continue with the PD presentation.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners and Councilmember Dominguez. Hopefully my screen is going to be sharing with you here momentarily. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so on our last meeting in September 17th, we discussed the use of force policy. And we discussed this and the changes being made to that. And that was based on the decision to discuss that use of force policy came from Chief Corpus. And that was as a result of different law enforcement events that took place in other areas of the country, such as the death of George Floyd. So at the discretion of Chief Corpus, we took a review of our department policies to ensure that we were still aligned with the best practices in our department. And we found that some of the practices we had were in place didn't really memorialize or they were not memorialized in our policy manual per se. So we also recognized that the community was unaware of many of our policies on important topics, such as the use of force, like we spoke about at the last meeting, as well as a new one we're going to speak about tonight, which is warrant service. So as part of the ongoing effort to promote our transparency and maintain our community confidence in how we as a police department are operating, I want to present to you guys in the community as well our warrant service policy, as well as some changes being made to our personal appearance standards policy moving forward. So that will be coming at the end. So what is NPM 613 warrant service policy? Quite simply put, it's the policy that establishes the guidelines for our officers in our departments, our department as a whole, to follow when planning and serving search warrants and arrest warrants. So as previously mentioned, it's currently putting our practices into a memorialized formal written policy. So let me kind of discuss briefly what a search warrant is, a brief lesson on that. A search warrant is simply a document that authorizes the search of a location for a specific item related to a specific investigation. And it's important to note that search warrants can only be signed and authorized by a judge. So a search warrant is not something that we just write. We have to go get judicial approval before serving a warrant. Now, before a judge actually issues a warrant, there has to be 4 specific elements that must be met. And the first is that the warrant has to be filed by good faith by a law enforcement officer. The warrant must be based on reliable information showing probable cause that there is a reason to search a specific location. The warrant must be issued by a neutral and detached magistrate or judge. And fourth, the warrant must state specifically the place to be searched and the items to be seized. So search warrants can be for something as minor as bank statements from a financial institution or account information from a service provider for a cell phone, or they can be as risky as searching for explosives in a home or a weapon used in the commission of a homicide. So here in Milpitas, we have obtained no risk search warrants all the way up to high risk search warrants. The no risk warrants that we've normally done usually do not require supervisor approval before going to a judge and requesting a warrant. However, it's important for our community members to know that all of our high-risk search warrants have supervisor involvement before even going to a judge to seek the warrant. So we'll go over some of the key sections on NPM section 613, the warrant service policy, in more detail. So 613.2 basically states what our department policy is in the service of search warrants and arrest warrants. And simply put, it balances the safety needs of the public, our department members, as well as the privacy interests with not only the service of the search warrants, but in arrest warrants, but in everything we do. So everything our department does, we're always trying to put the safety of the public in priority. That's what we take most seriously. And so that's why we wanted to share this policy with the community this evening, to ensure them that we are always putting their safety first. So 613.3 deals with what's known as the operations plan author. So if a search warrant is classified as being high risk, a member of the department will be assigned to write and create what's known as an operations plan for serving that warrant. And this operations plan covers all the logistics needed to serve the warrant in a safe manner for everybody involved. So the information contained in this operations plan includes which officers are assigned to the detail, what their specific duties are, their assigned locations, as well as all the risk factors that might be involved in serving the warrant. Now, these risk factors include not only the risk to the officers, but it includes the risks to people at the location that's going to be searched, such as, are there children at the location? Are there elderly individuals at the location, or handicapped individuals at the location? So all these risk factors allow us to tailor our tactics to ensure we are not putting anybody at risk as well. So, and the operations plan also covers contingency plans if unexpected events should occur. So this operations plan is discussed with everybody involved prior to the warrant service to ensure that we're all on the same page and we have a clear understanding of what the objective is. 613.4 deals specifically with search warrants. Now, if any officer should wish to obtain a search warrant, they should consult with their supervisor about their intent to do so. And if a search warrant is approved, the officer will complete a risk assessment form to see if additional resources are needed before serving the search warrant. To classify a warrant as a high-risk warrant, an in-depth analysis of multiple factors take place. And these factors include things such as, is there gangs involved? Are there weapons involved? The type of crime that's involved, the mental health history of the subject that's involved, as well as an assessment of the location that's going to be searched. For example, most homes have security cameras, so are there going to be security cameras there that compromise our officers? Or do they have metal security doors that will make entering the residence or location more difficult? So all those factors get considered whether or not a warrant is considered high risk. And now for arrest warrants, the same criteria applies for arrest warrants. If the service of an arrest warrant or a search warrant, again, is classified as high risk, the service of that warrant is going to be coordinated by a division captain or an authorized designee. So high risk warrants and search warrants will almost always be served with the use of additional resources such as our SWAT team or our crisis negotiations team. If an arrest warrant is not determined, does not meet that criteria of being high risk, then a supervisor is going to weigh the alternatives, weigh the importance of actually entering a home to go arrest somebody versus seeking other alternatives that are more safe for everyone involved, such as waiting for the person to leave the house or drive away and stop them outside of the home versus having to enter a home, which would obviously be more dangerous. 613.6 of the policy covers a specific type of warrant, which is known as a no-knock warrant. Now, California Penal Code Section 844 requires that officers provide what's known as knock notice before forcing entry into a location. There must be articulable facts, which leads an officer to seek judicial approval to waive that knock notice requirement. Now, historically, our department has not served no-knock warrants. However, we also understand there might be a time when we need to actually serve a no-knock warrant. With that being said, according to this section here, officers will need to get the approval of our chief before even going to seek approval from a judicial magistrate for a no-knock warrant. And to explain what a no-knock warrant is a little bit more in detail, again, our Penal Code Section 844 requires officers to give knock notice. So that would be an example of that, officers knocking on the door and identifying themselves, you know, Milpitas Police Department, we have a search warrant for your location. So they're knocking, they're announcing their intent to enter the home and serve a search warrant before forcing entry into the home. In the United States, no-knock warrants are issued by a judge, and that actually allows law enforcement to enter a location without that prior knocking and notice. So these warrants are issued under the belief that evidence might be destroyed during the time it takes officers to knock and announce themselves. No-knock warrants were most commonly used back in the 1980s during the war on drugs. In investigations involving the sales and manufacturing of controlled substances, these warrants were often sought to help prevent individuals from destroying evidence, like flushing drugs or other items down the toilet or down the sink while officers were announcing themselves before entering the location. But again, even during a time when no-knock warrants were commonly used, our department historically did not use them. Again, we take the preservation of life and the safety of the public over the potential destruction of evidence. Again, with that being said, we also understand that there might be a time where a circumstance calls for a no-knock warrant to be used. An example of that would be the preservation of life. So knowing that a situation might arise, we are keeping it in our policy, but again, we're keeping it there with strict oversight. .9 deals with the detention of individuals during the commission or during the service of a search warrant or arrest warrant. We understand that there's going to be people at a location being searched that might not be the subject or the scope of the search warrant, and there might be circumstances where those individuals have to be detained in handcuffs. Now, this section actually incorporates language from our use of force policy by stating that only reasonable force can be used when detaining individuals during that search warrant. Once that individual or individuals are determined that they're not the scope of the search warrant and it's when it's safe to do so, they will be promptly released. So some of the key takeaways that we want the commission to take away, as well as the community, is that historically, again, this policy is putting our current practice and our past practice of serving search warrants and arrest warrants and memorializing it into a formal policy. These are things that we as a department have always been doing. We're just now putting it down in a formal written policy. We take, again, the safety of the public is our #1 priority when executing search warrants and arrest warrants. And historically, we have never served no-knock warrants, and we always look for other alternatives such as surround and call out methods or stopping people away from the home. And before we get into the personal appearance standards policy, I'll open it up to see if anyone has questions regarding that or comments.
Thank you, Lieutenant Miller. Just one little correction for you. Oh my, it's okay now. Thank you, Tony. Are there any questions for Lieutenant Miller?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Do we have a public member?
I don't know. Let me check the box. Oh, there is.
Tony?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Give me
Mr. Mehta.
one. Yes, Mr. Mehta, are you able to unmute yourself and make your comment?
Yes, thank you very much, Tony. Good evening again to all City Council members, Police Chief Armando Corpus, as well as the Fire Department Deputy Chief Rick Frawley, Council Member Karina Dominguez and the city staff and all commissioners. I think, I just want to mention that with respect to the police departments, the policy update with regards to the search warrant, it would be important to have an inclusion of the cyber policy as well, because with regards to the efforts that has been put up by the city of San Jose, they have a separate department which basically handles the crime reports associated with the internet affairs with respect to the children, as well as the internet crimes and the investigation portfolio, and as well as the crime prevention, with respect to the internet as well. So I request all the commission members, as well as the council member and police chief to consider the internet division, to be established, and as well as the search warrant policy to be established as well for the internet crimes, which would be beneficial to the city of Milpitas. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta.
So Chair, if there's no further questions, I'd like to offer a couple of comments before we move on to the next policy.
Yes, Chief.
So in response to Mr. Mehta's comments, we do work internet crimes against children and other cyber crimes. We have folks that are actually trained in those disciplines, and they work very well with the DA's office and the other police departments in the area. But circling back to Lieutenant Miller's presentation, what I really want to emphasize with this commission, with our community members that are watching, we don't take search warrants lightly whatsoever. Whether they're defined as a high risk or low risk search warrants, as far as I'm concerned, outside the definition, anytime we are approaching somebody's door to serve a search warrant, I consider them all high risk. And we carefully go over those items in our operations plans in consideration with everybody involved to carry out our mission as safely as possible. And so our folks have done that, I think, very well over the past many, many years. I've been with the police department 30 years. As Lieutenant Miller mentioned earlier about the no-knock warrants, those were largely used in drug cases because, for whatever reason, police departments that were using those were committed to preventing the destruction of evidence. Again, I want to emphasize the priority with us has been and will remain the safety of our community and the safety of our staff. And everything we do revolves around that mission and that objective. So I just want to leave you with the confidence that we have very, very competent, well-trained folks that handle these, but it all revolves around the sanctity of life and for our community members and our staff. So thank you for that. I just wanted to emphasize that.
Thank you. And thank you, Lieutenant, for the presentation. If there are no other questions, we are going to move on to the next item. It's also policy manual of policy 1044.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
So at the commission meeting in March earlier this year, when actually everyone was able to meet in person before COVID shutting things down, Sergeant Speckenhoyer shared with you and sought community feedback on proposed changes being made to NPM section 1044, which is our department's personal appearance standards policy to allow our members to display tattoos while on duty. So in response to the feedback we received, the following changes to the personal appearance standards policy are going to be made specifically in the section governing tattoos. So the section of NPM 1044 that governs the display of tattoos is section 1044.3. So 1044.3 now says that all members of the department while on duty will be able to display tattoos. As long as they follow the following provisions, which we'll go over here. So 1044.3 section A says that tattoos may not be displayed on a person's hands, head, face, the ear, or the neck with the exception of a wedding band tattoo on the ring finger or permanent eyeliner, which I didn't actually realize existed until my wife actually told me she has it. So that was new information for me. But a lot of officers, a lot of members in public safety, for safety reasons, don't feel comfortable actually wearing a wedding band on duty in the fear that it could get caught on something and either remove a finger or injure a finger. So a lot of members in public safety actually have the tattoos of wedding bands on their ring finger. So that's why we wanted to incorporate that language into that section. Section B of 1044 says that tattoos of objectionable content will not be allowed to be displayed while on duty. Examples of objectionable content may include everything listed here on the screen. The list is long, as you can see, but in essence, a tattoo cannot be anything that's deemed or determined to be derogatory or offensive. We are a professional organization, so any tattoo that's going to be displayed on duty must be in good taste. Section C says that members who wish to display their tattoos on duty shall submit a memorandum of request to the chief with a photograph and a written description of the tattoo that includes what the actual meaning of that tattoo is. That tattoo will be evaluated by the chief or an authorized designee to make sure that it actually meets the compliance of this policy. Once that tattoo is approved, the member will be able to display their tattoo while on duty, and that memorandum will be maintained in the officer's personnel file. And this process is going to be the same. The same process needs to be filed for any new tattoos. So that's covered in Section E, or I'm sorry, Section D. If a new tattoo is obtained, additional request memorandums will be completed before that new tattoo can be displayed. So even though an officer has gotten approval to display one tattoo, if a new tattoo is put on the same arm, you have to get approval for that and submit a new memorandum as well as a photograph, and that will all be kept in the personnel file of the officer. Now, Section E deals or allows the chief or the designee to have the authority to determine the appropriate required uniform or attire for any event where the tattoos or the displaying of tattoos may not be considered appropriate. So a chief and a designee still has the authority to let our officers know what uniform needs to be worn if he or the designee feels that it's appropriate. Now, we feel that allowing our officers to display tattoos while on duty actually has some benefits. Historically, officers at our department have not been able to display tattoos while on duty. Tattoos are becoming more socially accepted, and other departments in the Bay Area have actually started to allow their officer to display them while on duty. Some of these departments include the city of Pittsburgh, Berkeley, El Cerrito, Hercules, and Atascadero. Officers with these tattoos or with tattoos use the topic to actually help build rapport and break the ice when they're talking to other people who have tattoos as well. So it's sort of like an icebreaker. And for whatever reason, if people see that officers have tattoos, they're more kind of open to talking. So we can use that as an icebreaker. Tattoos, again, are becoming more mainstream, and candidates that are applying to police departments throughout the Bay Area often look at what the tattoo policy is when making a decision where to apply. So by allowing our officers to display tattoos on duty, we won't run the risk of missing out on, excellent potential candidates that might be able to be hired to serve our community effectively. So we feel that that is going to be another benefit to add. And with that, I will turn it over back to the chair. Thank you.
Well, Chair, before you move on, I have a couple of comments I want to offer the commission as well, if that's okay with you. And you're on mute.
So sorry, I said yes, of course.
Yeah. So you may be wondering, many of you, why we're even bringing this to you. And so historically, as Lieutenant Miller mentioned, we have not allowed the display of any tattoos. It's been a fair standard. It's been a standard in the profession for decades. And so most recently, I'd say within the last 6 months, I altered the policy to allow our dispatchers to display tattoos while they're working. So even we had employees that had no public contact that couldn't display tattoos. And so I wanted to see what a sense, if that changed the environment whatsoever. And it didn't. As we looked at potentially allowing our uniformed police officers to begin displaying tattoos, which essentially is going to be on their arms, we really evaluated, is there an impact? And so the answer is yes and no. Before I get into the yes and no, I don't want to lose sight of, as Lieutenant Miller mentioned, potentially offensive tattoos. During the background investigation, I get to see what tattoos our applicants have. And I want to assure you, I don't hire anybody with offensive tattoos. If anything that is drug related, racist related, or anything else that could be offensive to our community members, we're really careful to ensure that the folks that we're hiring to provide a service and support you are aligned with your values. So circling back to the yes and no, I want to give you the example of a young man that I hired about a year and a half ago that I did not see because of the tone of his skin, the tattoo that he had on his hand. That young man has been an exceptional police officer, not because of his ability to do great police work, but because of the quality of the individual that he is. And I am trying to flood this department with quality individuals like him. And I would have hated to lose an opportunity to hire someone like that had I noticed that tattoo, and which happens to be on his hand, which I have given him an exemption of displaying. It's not really visible, but again, why we're here is to ensure that we have access and opportunities to hire the best people to serve you. I encourage the differences, love the differences that we have between us, whether it's the way we look, our backgrounds, our religion. I think the diversity that we have in our police department makes us a stronger police department, and it provides a better service to you. And so this is an effort to ensure, that we're up to date on where we should be with our policies, but again, to ensure that we're not losing opportunities to hire the best people to serve you, and instead they go somewhere else that may allow them to display their tattoos, which I believe in today's date is socially acceptable. You can go to any restaurant, coffee shop, or what have you, and see people displaying tattoos. So I wanted to offer that. This policy has not been adopted yet, with the exception for our dispatchers. I wanted this commission and our community members an opportunity to provide feedback if they disagreed with my position on it. And I welcome any opinions about it. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And thank you for sharing that with us. And you're right, not because of a tattoo, we judge people by the color of their skin or the tattoos that they, had on shoulder, arms, neck. So my question is, on your application, it actually asked if you have tattoos?
No, we're not allowed to ask that question, but when we get further into, we do a thorough background of all applicants. It could be a police officer, dispatcher, records clerk, what have you. During a thorough background, we will discover if somebody has tattoos. They're asked, they're expected to be honest about it, and so there's discussion over that. So I will tell you, in the 3 years I've been your police chief, I haven't had any concerns or issues about any tattoos our staff has.
Okay, I thought you had that question on your application. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Lieutenant Miller or Chief Corpus? Comments?
I actually would like to comment if I may, sir.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Chief, and thank you so much, Lieutenant, for the presentation. I definitely am very supportive and impressed, and I'm grateful that we are going to move into this progressive side of creating a new culture in law enforcement, which I believe is something that is desperately needed at times, especially as we're recruiting new members. And I echo your sentiments, Chief, that many times that really do disqualify great talent. And I'm very proud to have that talent in Milpitas. And thank you so much for being forward thinking. This is going to be a great start. And I know that other cities are paying attention to things that we're doing here in Milpitas. So thank you so much for taking this initiative. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chair Lynn, I have a comment from Mr. Mehta.
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much to all the commissioners, city council member, and the commissioner chair as well, and again the police department chief Armando Corpus. Certainly, it is a tradition to develop a culture, within the city of Milpitas, as that how the policies should be facilitated in order to develop a talent. So I wanted to thank you, Chief Armando Corpus, for having such policy in place, and also certainly having to put a consideration to put that on put that question on the application, that if that's something required, the applicant should not be hesitating in by being a part of the organization and developing such culture. Again, thank you very much to speak again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Do we have any other hand raised in the chat? No, we don't.
No.
Okay. Since this is the report, we do not need to have a motion. I again want to thank you all for your participation tonight. Thank you, Chief and Lieutenant, for the presentation. Council Member and Tony for the report, and all fellow board commissioners for your services to the city of Milpitas. It is greatly appreciated. So I want to wish everyone great health, stay safe, and I do need a motion to adjourn the meeting if there are no other discussions at this time.
Motion to adjourn.
Quiet. Thank you.
I guess we still want to go on.
He had to wake up.
No, such great meeting, great presentation. Nobody wants to end this meeting. This is wonderful. Okay, once we go
I'll
on.
second it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I was going to do the same thing again.
Be safe.
You have to take a vote on the motion?
No, we're good.
No.
Oh, geez.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Stay safe.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you, Han.
Bye.